Am I audible? Okay. So today I'll discuss about that locality development program. Basically, what I discussed yesterday and those key aspects of locality development program. So we have discussed some approaches to community intervention yesterday, and as a part of those approaches, I have also discussed taxonomy of goals, assumption of certain condition based on which goal is being set and benefits are being distributed, as well as the power orientation, this very common interest of the community, the public interest of the community, as well as I have discussed about the assumption of the community itself by the NGO representative as well as a community worker. So as a community worker, what will you do to mobilize a community? Okay, so what will be your approach to even organize a community? On the part of locality development approach, there are certain aspects. So I have discussed about three approaches yesterday. One is locality development, the very first approach. Second one is social planning, and third one is social action. Okay, so we will discuss, we will deliberate on social action or social movement tomorrow. So today I will wander on those very aspects which actually bind the locality development approach. Okay, as I have told you that it is an approach which are meant to make the villagers participate in the community. So, as a NGO representative or as a community worker, what should be your role? And you are professional now because you are trained in managing an NGO. Out of your internship, also, you have learned lot many things about the structures, about the hierarchies, about NGO participation, basically, right? As well as working in the field, how to mobilize a community, at least some idea you have gained, right? So it is very important also to understand that locality development approach is looking for making a self-help group. So it is very, very important to organize a community based or organize or construct or even you say arrange a community based organization in a locality in a way to you see mobilize the community. So that will come under locality development program or locality development approach. So in order to develop a locality, you will actually go for developing indigenous leadership. You will go for democratic, you see the procedure, developing some democratic procedure, or for that you will harness the characteristics, very characteristics of democratizing development at local level. So here we are talking about grassroots democracy. So your role in Panchayati Raj institution is also very, very important. So here in locality development approach, in order to realize the very aspect of the locality development approach, like a self-help, indigenous, building indigenous leadership, like creating a democratic platform for the people, an open discussion among the people, as well as capacity building. So what will you actually do? So your job is to build awareness. So when you say awareness, so there are some NGOs out and out specialized in awareness campaign, right? They will create various awareness drive. They will also go by various awareness drive to create that to have that sensitization program and to sensitize the minds of the people, right? So we know those NGOs. And you see, on the part of awareness also, the very role of yours should be to make people have that functional literacy. So it's functional literacy is a very integral part of any kind of awareness drive. So when you say functional literacy, at least you make the villagers, if they are illiterate, learn the basic of arithmetic, the basic of you see how to write their name. So that is very, very important. That is perhaps the very elementary kind of awareness drive which you need to carry out. So first step to develop a community is to make people aware. So aware, when you say awareness, it might have a gendered approach, gender awareness. So you might have a role in liberation education. So you might have also learned about this polyferins that theater of the operate that operates that three is also there. So you also make people understand what is holding them back. Okay, so it is very very important also to make them politically aware. So when we talk about this awareness, it is very very important to make them politically aware. Politically aware means how to get the benefits from the existing associations. Okay, so when you say political right means to form an association. Okay, to know about your right is also political association, to have a representation, right? Representation in the body. So, representation in any community body. And representation also said that you have the power. Normally, what happens, we see that power equation in a village is very like, uh, it's not balanced. Okay, our equation in a village is not balanced. There are elite people who usually have all the power: police power, military power, money power, bargaining power, legislative power, executive power. They do have the administrative power. You see, so the oppressed people, they are simply oppressed, they're suppressed, they do not have the voice. So that equation is very like to reflect it in any kind of village setup, in any communities, and you need to study that power equation. In order to create an awareness drive also, you need to study the power equation so that you make people politically aware, so that you can make people like aware about the gender. Now you also know that gender is something which is socially constructed, and also attract biologically determined, right? Socially constructed. When it is socially constructed, you don't actually lack skill and competency. What you lack is opportunity, right? So you are not given that opportunity, and that's why you are deprived. So there is a sense of deprivation which will always make people, you see, indifferent, which will always make people, you see, apathic. So which will always make people very cold, because they know that they are backward, and they are in a state of backwardness for years. Okay, so they become very independent, indifferent to even participate in any kind of like, village-based programs. Rituals are there. They participate. Even if they participate, they also know there is like, no outcome can come out. So in locality development, as I've already told you, a normlessness situation is there when people are also indifferent to participate in village rituals. There are organizations, there are associations like Village Club, Mahila Mandal, religious committee, environmental protection committee, perhaps a disaster management committee. These are all CBOs, community-based organizations, which are existed in the villages, but people don't feel like to participate in those communities. Okay, so why they don't feel like to participate is because of the normlessness, because they also think that they will not get any benefit out of it. Okay, so that normlessness situation is there in it's in every organization, maybe an institution, even in an university also. It may happen that normlessness situation. Okay, so when there is a clash between the norm and the values and the goal, so you actually get to see that anomic situation. So locality development approach is a kind of intervention strategy to make people aware of themselves. Okay, and also create a political awareness, create a gender related awareness, and also create about awareness about the liberation, and also help them building the capacity, building the skills, as well as building the hope and a confidence. Okay, now you see, as a role, as my question is, what will you do? What will you do in order to realize the self-help in a village, in order to make the villagers realize the importance of self-help? What will you do? What will you do in order to create a democratic leadership or an indigenous leadership in a village? So we know about this SHG, right? You know SHG is also formed, and I have shared one video there. I have discussed about some of the tenets of this SHG, right? Self-help group. So how it is actually formed. You also know about the self-help group, and it is something which is very, you see, Asian, which is very indigenous. The concept of SHG is indigenous in the sense that all the managerial concept we have borrowed from the West, but the concept of SHG has given like birth, or you see also concept of SNT has originated here in India and in Bangladesh. So it has got an Asian origin or indigenous origin. So indigeneity from our point of view. Okay, so this concept is such that it will harness that community well-being, at the same time harness the community power, at the same time it harness the community participation, right? So you see that community participation to achieve that managerial skill by the community itself. Okay, so when community feel that okay, we can own that organizations, we can own the resources, we are the custodian of the resources, we are the beneficiary of the resources. So it can give that feeling, and that feeling is very very important. Okay, when there is a normlessness, so first thing what you can do as a manager is to give them the reward first. At most of the situation, when we discuss about the core managerial principle, I will introduce it in the NGO management part. Even in an NGO management also, normlessness situation might arise because of lack of reward. Hmm? So they are indifferent because they did not get any reward out of even some of the intervention strategy. You cannot even say that there is no intervention strategy applied in one particular community. It might have applied, but it may not be that successful. But it is not that NGO is something very unique. So it has actually originated 1990. Right, 1990, it is also a product of liberalization of Indian economy. And so in line with liberalization of this Indian economy, we have that self-help approach. So helping yourself, okay, liberate yourself, and also try to like empower yourself. So this concept is there. It is also criticized by many Marxist or you say leftist organization. This particular concept because of some of the inherent flaws that I'll discuss. Okay. So on the part of locality development approach, the very aspect of self-help can be realized by you see by creating an awareness first. It is very very important on your part to create an awareness. When you say create an awareness, making a political awareness. So what will you do to make a political awareness? So it is also creating awareness is very very important. Creating awareness. Okay, it's really, really important to create awareness. Once you create awareness, so what will you do? But I'm talking about this political awareness. Okay, I'm also talking about gender-based awareness. Gender-based awareness. I'm talking here about the liberation education, which is very, very important. Okay, and then it is very, very important to also have capacity building. Okay, it is also important to have a stake in Panchayati Raj Institution, PRI. Okay, so creating awareness will first make them know how to get benefit from the association and how to fight for their rights, political awareness. When you teach them how to fight for their rights, so how will you teach them how to fight for their rights? For that, you also act as a social psychologist. You are a psychologist. You know what is there in their like very psyche, very mind. Okay, so it's very very important for you to behave as a social psychologist. Talk to them and let them vent out their grievances or also any kind of sorrows, miseries, feelings, and help them to articulate it. Many a time, people, villagers, they do not articulate. They do not know how to articulate. There is also language barriers, cultural barriers. Cultural and language barriers are the two factors which will obstruct them to articulate properly. So in that case, it is very important to make them understand some of the power dynamics that you are deprived, you are discriminated, and you are not making them anti-government or anti-system. But yeah, the power dynamics which is there inside, you make them realize. And first, be humble, intervene in a humble way then you need to spend time with them. So mentally, socially, psychologically, you have to spend time with the villagers. It's not like you Sudha, you go one day, you exchange dialogue with the villagers, next day you come home and sit like, leisurely at home. So you would think that okay, problem has sorted out. No. So every day you need to you need to visit the village that you might have learned out of your internship, right? So after this internship, you might have learned that how difficult it is to develop that rapport with the villagers, right? So it's very very difficult. So make them politically aware how to get the benefit from the existing institutions. Okay, how to get benefit from women sangham if it is there, from a women group, from the existing CBOs, community-based organization. So it is very very important. And how to fight for the rights. You can know about the rights as well as you don't know how to write an application. Most of the time, we see people do not know how to write an application because I have experienced it. There are many people they came to my mother. My mother is also associated with the women group since our childhood. She is a very core member of that group. So see, I have seen there are people who come even writing application who are also on the verge of breaking that marriage, how to write an application, is there come for legal aid. So your job is to help them, seeking like you know, they're seeking the information and also get acquainted with the system. Then the gender-based awareness, gender-based awareness is actually it is a part of this and it's very, very important. So to attend the conferences or if there is no conference, no workshop, no seminar, then you pressurize, okay, we want this. So that we can have that awareness. Because this is something, if you do not have that exposure at periodical way and after some interval, at times you tend to be persuaded by the dominant force of the society. So it's very very important also to also to get swayed by the sentiment of those who are oppressed. So at times you need to have exposure to the workshop, to the seminar, to even the conferences which are meant for the marginalized so that you won't get swayed by the dominant force. Like market is a dominant force, liberalization is a dominant force, capitalism is a dominant force, or even anything associated with power today, money power, bargain power, executive power. Right? Don't get swayed by it, so that you can also have a stake for those who are marginalized in the society. So you can yourself you can take that stake. Then we see liberation, education, so stimulation, role play, two-year street play. So we will come into this liberation education because I will discuss about it later on. Perhaps you have got it also. So it is also quite important to let them know what is holding them back. And also, if you organize a street play and make the villagers participate in the street play, and also devise out a script along with them, let them write the script, also contribute, take their contribution in writing the script, will liberate them because they will be shouting their voice, whatever grievances are there inside, so they will vent out. They themselves will be like venting out. Once you sit with them, help them write a script, and if they cannot write, then you take their point of view, their ideas, you will write, and also you will not perform. Let them perform along with you. So that will be a kind of participation. Let them perform with you. So all of you will shout. So you also say that I am with you. Okay, I am also your voice. You be my voice. Okay, and we will shout for our right. We'll shout for our claim. So that is the liberation education, which is very very essential on the part of locality development approach. Then we see capacity building. When we say capacity building, it has also got different dimensions, right? Like the income earning. So to enhance the income earning is very very important. To enhance the income earning, you as an NGO representative might suggest for some of the vocational training like weaving, that mate making. Then you can also see that you say coil making, coil rope making, then you say painting, dyeing for male member of the villagers, you measure carpentry. These are various vocational training program which also you can execute. Okay, and you can also materialize by getting support from the NGOs and external agencies. So these are some of the income earning strategies. But along with that, what is important is to give the villagers uh, idea or provide them some avenues about marketing their products. So marketing abilities along with the vocational training is very very important. So three capacity building are important. One is marketing their abilities. First, to get them skilled, develop that attitude that I'm skilled enough to do for myself. Now I'm skilled enough to do for myself. I'm also skilled enough to market my product. Nobody is there to market my product. Even if there is an organization or an association to market, I have a stake in that association. So I'm actually running that association. I am running means it is not I am the president, I am a member of that association. So I have a stake. So I own that organization, and that organization has given me that marketing abilities or marketing avenues. So I also know I have skills, I have that attitude. Having that attitude is very, very important. So forming on your part, forming that attitude on the part of the villagers is very, very important. Okay, that okay you can do your own job. See, you are skilled in these very endeavors, so you can also market it through that organization because you have a stake, you are the member of that organization, so it's very very important. Okay, so that capacity building means giving them training about bargaining, giving them training about credit, even skill, even credit facilities. Get them acquainted with the bank. Okay, also talk to the bankers. Okay, and give them some confidence to talk to the bankers. They usually hesitate to talk to the bankers, what to talk, how to talk. So I have seen they don't talk at all. In my home also, I have a maid. She doesn't talk at all. My main problem is she doesn't communicate to me. I am the one all the time, like something I used to do, communicate here and there. She doesn't communicate at all. I also sit with her, I ask her, I try to persuade her, like no. But whenever I become angry, then only she communicates. You know. So I have realized, okay, that is the that is the point of provocation that whenever I got angry, then only she communicate. It's not like she doesn't know how to communicate. Now, there is some kind of element which is there. Perhaps the element of protest is there, but element of harmony is not there. Now, here, along with this liberation education, okay, I will also tell you that it is quite important. I forgot it to include in that discussing while discussing that aspect. It is quite important to also arise that element of protest in the villages. Okay, element of protest. How will you arrive? We all have a critical psyche, right? So we all have that psyche, and most of the time, these are in hibernation. The psyche, critical psyche, is in hibernation. Okay, is in stagnant mode. Okay, that psyche is there, but most of the time we are so very subdued by this market force that we don't use that critical psyche. But right from the childhood, that psyche has been provided through books, through your school training, through your college training. So your that psyche has been provided and bolstered. But over the years, once you pass matriculations, even at your teenage also, and you usually subdued by this market force. And you see, advertising has already um, entice your mind and brain. So that critical psyche is not cherished. So it is quite important to have a critical psyche, critical insight. Critical insight, be negative, but at the same time be constructively negative. So you have some constructive point. So if you are thinking about, yesterday also I have told you that if you are thinking about overthrowing a system, you might have a constructive alternative. That's what has been told by Saul Alinsky. Okay, so constructive alternative is must in order to replace one system. So it is very, very essential. Okay, if you do not have any constructive alternative, then better you keep mum. So this is the so better you keep mum, make a noise, get some support, and meanwhile you develop. So this is what it is not like that. Okay, so it's very very important. Okay, so developing that critical element in the villagers, so that critical element of protest, they know how to protest. Most of the time they're voiceless, they don't know how to protest. Okay, so I also see Islam, like, she has got a very sharp tongue. So I might also say I have a like my maid is always with soft tongue. She doesn't communicate to me, but whenever I provoke her, she said something which you can't even imagine. Okay, so she has got that element of protest. I know, but I will not try to suppress that. Okay, because I will not suppress it also. Let it be, because at times that will also do good for her, because she's the deprived, she's from that very deprived section, right? So, and also I have seen that there is an element in most of the villages that love to be exploited. I have seen, because if my, not my, if your, even in case of me, if uh, my psyche, my mind tell someone to rule, they will deny to be ruled, but they will be like to be exploited. So that was also a psyche. So it is very very important to make them understand what is the reality, what will make them sustain. Okay, and how to protest even. So it is very very important. It's a part of the liberation education. I'll get back to it. Okay. Then capacity building and PRI. PRI, you also know, when you talk about this PRI, Panchayat institution. So the very 73rd amendment in 93 was uh, declared as a golden year of Indian constitution, just because we got consent from president on the 73rd amendment, which become a bill and later it's become an act. So, and that has materialized the name of democratizing development goal of India, and also democratizing the governance. Okay, and establish grassroots democracy. Now, as an NGO representative, your stake in PRI, is to create a platform um, for the villagers to develop genuine leadership and genuine representative. What does it mean in terms of holding election of the PRI to find a representative? So you have actually command over all the village association as an NGO representative, because you know the existing association, and at times you also manipulate the existing association. I have told you that it is quite essential in order to achieve the good of locality development approach. It is quite important to manipulate the existing association. Manipulate doesn't mean in a negative sense. You need to manipulate, you need to know the existing association where the potent members, and even there is no potential, you need to also arrange and organize some seminar workshop to 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 make them competent enough to be a representative, right? So your role is to find a representative for the ERI, participatory rural, sorry, Panchayati Raj institutions. Okay, and in the election of Panchayati Raj institution, because you also see that democracy cannot be seen at all level. Earlier, democracy was there at state and central level, but bureaucracy was there right from the local level. In order to remove that bureaucratic element, is very very important also to ensure the grassroots democracy, and with you as an NGO representative have much stake to do it. So, okay, then capacity building, as I've already told you, how to build a self-help group. As I've already told you, it is important to build a self-help group. It is based upon the Asian ideology. Okay, Asian ideology, when we say Asian ideology, in the sense that uh, so you also see Asian ideology. Self-help group is something which actually originated in the Bangladesh and in these regions, and also you see self-help group is also something which will a managerial principle. Sorry, it is also a managerial principle, which is also which is actually based on women sangham. Women Sangam was actually a group which was also built in the self-help pattern earlier. But there is also a difference between self-help group and women Sangam. When you say women Sangam, that can be formed out of like be formed of 50 members, 100 members. But self-help, in case of self-help group, you actually see that group be consisted of you say 15 members, 10 to 15 members, right? And at times, what is important for you is to go through different stages in the formation of the self-help group. Okay, so in the very first place, you also uh, need to make people introduced to that concept. So that is known as the forming stage of the self-help group. So you make villagers aware about this particular concept, and it might take even 3 weeks to even 3 months to make villagers aware about the concept, to even identify a name for the group is very very important. So it is a way to mobilize the villagers. So it's very very important to identify a name for the group, so they can identify from uh, uh, something which is relatable to their locality, relatable to their heart. Okay, as well as they will start saving. So also convincing them to save in the group is a very difficult task. Okay, so in the very forming state, you will also try to convince them to save, and also you will land, you will give some landing. Okay, and in the very first 3 months, uh, you will make people acquainted about the self-help concept. Okay, and that point of time you might not familiarize with the anxieties of the people, anxieties of the villagers. And in the forming stage is basically followed by the storming stage. People will have many queries, many anxieties when they are being acquainted after 3 months or within 3 months also. What is this? Why they need to contribute? They might ask you, why don't you contribute? Why there is a requirement of us to contribute? You may contribute a lump sum and also take a leading role. Okay, might have if you might have also queries regarding if somebody is very old and the next year she will die, what will happen if they contribute the money? Somebody might also ask, as it is women centric and somebody might ask, if I contribute, then if I get married to another village, what will happen? Because the boundary definition of self-help group is very limited to that village, right? So these might be these are the queries. These might arise at the storming stage of SHG, self-help group, and you need to deal with this. Okay, so what you need to convince them that this is not a cheap fun group, so that will build up, or that will also stop after a few years. So it will continue, even your generation can also get benefit out of it. This is true. Your generation, it can also give the benefit to your generation. So it is a continuous process. Okay, so you need to convince them, and you need to convince them that they have a stake in the SHG. How they have a stake in the SHG self-help group? How welfare activities can be channeled through SHG self-help group? Okay, how they can make bylaws for SHG? Okay, it is very important that there will not be any nominee for SHG, but they can be the member. There will be not any nominee from NGO, but there will be only what? There will be only members and selected members of this SNG, and they will decide how much they will contribute. They will only decide how much will be sanctioned as a loan amount. They will decide how long they will contribute. Okay, so they have already owned that whole project SHG. They have owned that organization because they are the custodian of SHG. Okay, they are the sole custodian of SHG. They are the beneficiaries of the SHG. So in the storming sale, you need to address their queries. Okay, you need to be very humble at that point of time to addressing their queries. You cannot show your arrogance at all. Okay, and in the norming stage, norming is very important. aspect of locality development itself, because whole locality development is a kind of norming. When there is normlessness, means you see, you start criticizing. Simply you cannot say that somebody start criticizing about organization is behaving normlessness. No, constructive criticism is good, but you also see that in norming stage you basically try to make them feel that group dynamics. Okay, so have that trust that okay, it is a group, uh, and this group can be a tool for socio-economic development. Okay, so internalize the self-help group is very, very important in the norming stage. You internalize. You make villagers internalize about the self-help group. Okay, it's very, very essential. How will you internalize? Even by organizing seminar, workshop, even through joint meeting. Through meeting, make them aware about it, more and more aware. Okay, and also create some of this, as I told you, simulation program, role play program. Through street play you can internalize it now. So your role is very, very important in deliberation. So like in executing liberation education also, you can creating a norm. So a norming stage, in the norming stage you will also develop that group dynamic, so people will feel that they are actually, they belong to that institution, they belong to that village, they also belong to that group. So it will enhance their belongingness, and they will also speak good about that organization. Okay, so that is important. And in the last, you have that performing stage. So here we see after norming, you actually move to performing. So village themselves own the project. They will not depend on NGO to even carry out any project. It's very, very important to build confidence among the village as a NGO representative, so that they won't rely on any NGO for further fund, further grants, but they know that this group is formed out of their contribution. So they have their stake. So they have their resources in it. Right. So money is there within the village. Okay, so you also know that, so it will help you to perform, and in the performance stage you will develop that confidence. You will also communicate with outside agencies, you will communicate with, you see, government bodies, you will communicate with bankers, you will also discuss about your family issues, you will discuss about village issues. Okay, so you will have that confidence to discuss about the family problems and the village problem. And also many SHGs are platform where grievances related to families are also addressed at times. Because in each and every household, it is a women centric, and they have problem, they face problem, and they discuss it in the SHG. And in a way, they also liberate themselves while discussing. It is a way to liberate themselves. So they will discuss their family problem, they will discuss their village problem, not to quit like themselves, but also with the bankers, with the villager. It's not like that earlier these norms might not be prevailed, but this norm has come. So अच्छा ये जो प्राइवेट है प्राइवेट ही रखो, नहीं अभी देखो ये पब्लिक हो गया है, कि तभी ये प्रॉब्लम सोल्व होगा, नहीं तो सोल्व नहीं होगा. ठीक है, so that is the intention of performing stage. So here you actually realize that okay, this will help you, SHG will help to liberate you, SHG also help to develop your village economically. Okay, so that is important. On the part of locality development approach, you understood this? Okay, and then I'll continue. I have some more time. Any question? You water girl. It's become water girl. Okay. Uh, so you you've understood. Okay, as a part of locality development approach, we have also discussed about the role of community worker, how they will execute locality development, and I have discussed about self-help group, so how it is actually formed, And role of community worker in forming the self-help group. It's very, very important. And the benefit of self-help group. What benefit might accrue to the villagers uh, by this group, by formation of this group? What benefit? Apart from this,
They will learn
sorry,
They will learn new skills.
they will,
Now new skills.
yeah, right. Then add more benefit accrued to the villagers by this program. Sorry, liberation. Okay, and empowerment, liberation. Yeah, loan. Loan. They will get loan from bank also. But how asset? Sorry, CIF and RF. Explain. Yeah. For how many years? Yeah, that can be taken. And more. We add more. Basically, it will. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Creating awareness. So, role of community NGO representative in locality development process, or while executing locality development approach. So you might also what you might develop an interaction with an external agency. You might also say, I have an approach, I will intervene with this approach, and these are the roles performed by me while executing this approach in a community. Okay, when you talk about the benefits accrued to the villagers by these strategies, I also say that it actually uh, it will abolish this cumbersome procedure of even taking the loan from the bank. So it's not that easy to get loan from the bank. A lot of documentary evidence are required. And what bank is usually, even bank can also give the loan because this SHG will have a you say continuous linkage with the bank. Okay, and continuous linkage in such a way that if SHG have 4,000 or 5,000 savings, they can also get uh, another extra amount 10,000 or 2 3 times higher from the bank. And in that way, there are some SHGs who are also procuring more than 5 lakhs. Okay, and they can carry their own developmental program through that fund. So they are saving up to 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs. Okay, some SHGs are savings up to 5 6 lakhs. So they can own the developmental program, they can carry their developmental program. Bank will anyhow be helpful in terms of adding benefit to the savings. If they have a savings of 5,000, 10,000, then they will get another 2 times higher 20,000, 30,000 from the bank. So that is a benefit, and most of the time, when beneficiaries uh, are interacting with the bank, it is not that there is direct interactions, but they need to go through the SHG, and it will also save time. At the same time, they will, and these beneficiaries will not get into this cumbersome dealing with this bank. And the thing is that these SHGs at the same time, so you can also there are members who can also get loan like 50, even 100 rupees. Even there are also 1,000, they can also get loan 1,000 rupees. Like here they also take loan of 50 rupees, 100 rupees, like that. Okay, so that is basically the benefit of SHGs, and to have their own development program, and also empowerment liberation is there. So is one thing.
And then you also mentioned about some aspects that guide the local community development approach.
Myra, Myra,
Aspects that guide the local development approach. That
aspect
guide,
that.
um, yeah,
Sorry,
aspects that guide the
this aspect I have told you. So this aspect like a self-help group, indigenous leadership, etc. You help to create indigenous leadership, and this can be created through this endeavors. Okay, okay. And what is important now, I'll also discuss about some of the some of the element related to commitment of you see voluntary organization. So, so you also have seen that there are multiple number of voluntary organization existed, right? So we see that there are some voluntary organization and which are professional and developmental in their very orientations, and there are also voluntary organizations which are pseudo, and which have an orientation which is survival related only. So pseudo and survival related voluntary organizations are two different aspects. Definitely, there are some pseudo volunteerism is there. Okay, so all these types of voluntary organization are covered by a framework. So that framework of volunteerism, and in that framework of volunteerism, we have six basic, component. They will guide the existing nature of the NGOs. Okay, so when you talk about those volunteerism, like first and foremost is the sacrificial volunteerism. So you won't see that sacrificial volunteerism nowadays. Okay, when you say sacrificial volunteerism, you get to see a kind of personified altruism, which you won't get to see nowadays. That personified altruism you won't be like in a scene, like in Mahatma Gandhi, in Mother Teresa, in Ambedkar, you will see that personified altruism. Okay, because they did not go to school and the colleges to learn voluntary activities like you are doing it. Okay, so it is something which is there inside, so they can sacrifice themselves even for the sake of volunteerism, and they are the one who can give various lessons to us. Okay, so the theories of volunteerism are also built upon their, like, name, fame, and activities. So sacrificial volunteerism is very very like an important component that define some of the NGOs as well as you see voluntary workers. So you can define. Okay, I have also made one voluntary worker. So he's a NGO representative, Ajay Sahar. So I interviewed him when I was a student of Jamia Millia Islamia in MCRC. So I interviewed him. So he spent around 10 years in Naxal Valley areas. So he served a lot. He served that villagers a lot, and I lost contact with him, lost touch. But he was a Gandhian. He was not Marxist. He was not inspired by Marxist ideology, leftist ideology. He was inspired by Gandhian ideology, and a soul Gandhian ideology. So spiritual things is also there in his character. Okay, so he is a kind of sacrificial, like emblem of sacrificial volunteerism. So in terms of individual, also you will get to find this kind of component of volunteerism. So one is sacrificial volunteerism, and hardly 1% of individuals or 1% of NGO constitute that sacrificial volunteerism. Okay, then we have next is professional and development volunteerism. So where you actually have competence to carry out voluntary work. Okay, you develop professional competence to carry out voluntary work. Okay. So when you say that you have that competence to carry out voluntary work, uh, you are aware of the vision, you are aware of the mission, you are aware of the objective of the organization. So earlier in sacrificial volunteerism, they do have a mission and vision in their mind, and they don't even care their life for the people for doing something good for the people. But here you have a concrete framework through which you will deliver the book to the people. So you have acquired skill, you have acquired competence, you know the objective, but you can also forego monetary benefit for realizing the objective. So let me tell you, if you are thinking only about money, then don't join in these voluntary affairs. So at one time, in order to fulfill the mission, fulfill the vision, you will be agreed to forego the monetary benefits. But you have that confidence, and now you see there are charismatic personalities, and those personalities are found in the juniors, not in traditional bureaucrats. Traditional bureaucrats are basically seniors, and seniority is the criteria to be in power. But now we see this charismatic leadership has come out from the new young populations, and sincerity is the core phenomenon or key to key to rendering the services in the community. So they are very sincere. So part of professional and developmental volunteerism. Okay. And third one is, you see, it is ventilating volunteerism, like a Rotary Club is there. This Lions Club. Okay, so Lions Club, Rotary Club, they are basically ventilating the space. So you get to find this kind of volunteerism everywhere, basically carried out by the opulent member of the community, by the affluent member, by the elite member of the community, just because they have money to conduct a health camp, they have money to even give any relief, render any services, but they will do it with that kind of sudden that cheer and that enthusiasm, and at the same time they will also withdraw it very suddenly whenever they got depressed. So you get to see this kind of ventilatory volunteerism. Like volunteerism is a way to ventilate their stress, urban stress. So go to the ventilatory volunteerism. Okay. V and ventilator, ventilator, P and P, E L O N D A L A T O R L, E E N Venti, E L O T O R Y, ventilator. So what happened to this? Okay, you understood? Z and ventilate. Ventilate the grievances. We said ventilate. So that is what ventilate. Vent out, like it is ventilatory. So they're venting out their stress, ventilatory. Okay. So this is what is the ventilatory volunteerism. So sacrificing volunteerism, then we have professional and development volunteerism. Third one is ventilatory volunteerism, venting out the stress. And then we also have survival volunteerism. Ventilatory volunteerism constitute around 10 to 15%. The problem is that they do have resources, they do have money to offer voluntary services, but they cannot sustain. Now, in each stream of voluntary component, you will have some of the merits and demerits, pros and cons. In volunteerism, you will see that kind of enthusiasm among the people, among the affluent. Even CSR activities are also a kind of ventilatory volunteerism. But CSR activities continuing because of this, very nature of one particular organization, because it involves the social audit. So not necessarily all ventilatory voluntary component have that social edit, like Rotary Club, Lions Club. So that's why enthusiasm is there. They will intervene with that enthusiasm. They will also withdraw with that kind of suddenness. Whenever they think that okay, again they are stressed, something is not materialized, they will withdraw. So the service is not continued. Service is not sustaining, and sustaining as they cannot give a regular sustaining service, you might also say that perhaps it may not be an ideal kind of volunteerism. But yeah, they do have money. They can approach media to get a coverage, and at the same time, you get to find big advertisement in the newspaper in favor of their action and activities. Huh. But it is their activities are not continuing. Okay. So it is also related to the very you see trust of the Gandhi, what Gandhi has told about the trust. Okay, so I will discuss about it while discussing about CSR. Okay, so more to discuss about ventilatory volunteerism. Then we have survival volunteerism. Survival volunteerism basically you see threat to the whole voluntary sectors, we also say, and at times it is very difficult to find the difference between survival volunteerism and pseudo volunteerism. Pseudo volunteerism is also one particular component. Okay, so my this pencil is not working, this marker is not working, otherwise I might write pseudo volunteerism, PSEDO. PSEDO, pseudo volunteerism is there. You also have that survival volunteerism. The survival volunteerism, when volunteerism become a kind of breadwinning, uh, 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 bread winning avenues. Okay, it will be breadwinning avenues for even professionals, but you have joined it because you want to do something. Okay, so that is there at one point of time you might not realize, but definitely you will realize it. I have also seen the people who are working for NGOs and they are very, very committed. They do have families, beautiful families, nice families. They do have a very good life, social life. Okay, and they're also earning good amount of money at the same time. Okay, so but they are so very committed, you know, and they embrace that humanitarian cause a lot. So everybody will look for the humanitarian ground. Okay, this is humanitarian aspect, so definitely we want to invest, we look for it. So it is there. But at one point of time, that like, they become also corporative. That is another challenge that they are living in volunteerism or effort of volunteerism cannot even get rid of that corporatist aspect. So you see, when you are talking about the survival volunteerism, they do not have any ideology, they do not have any principle. So in professional and development volunteerism, you get to see driven by an ideology. Professional and development volunteerism is driven by that ideology, driven by that principle, driven by a norm. So they are inspired and motivated to do good for the people and think upliftment, think for the upliftment of the people. But and here in ventilatory volunteerism also, you see most of the Lions Club, Rotary Club, they're inspired by some ideology, the Indian ideology or liberal ideology. Okay, so they have an ideology, they have embraced an ideology, okay, or socialist ideology to even deliver the good to the community. But in survival volunteerism, there is no place of any ideology. Okay, no place of any principle. They are not even motivated and like willing to give something to the community. So they just want to survive. They also know that money is available. So as money is available, there are donors in in India, outside India, donor will definitely, if you make a proposal, donor will fund the money. So they do not have that cause, and they might have got that amount. So at times, if they got like problem is that if they get some kind of pressure, they will also relinquish their job. And this kind of volunteerism constitute around 20 to 25 percent of NGOs. So, and that is very disturbing. Now we come to pseudo volunteerism. Pseudo volunteerism again is a kind of survival volunteerism also, and that too in a very deteriorating way. It is also more degenerating, pseudo volunteerism, because they know that the government has made it mandatory for the ministries as well as department to implement the program through NGOs. So all of the time, like in a time, you might say that some government has come up with a scheme and a program, and in line with that, all of a sudden an NGO has been created. So they are basically later paid NGO. They're private organization in public floating, and they are also you say name board NGOs. So they exist and they have come and exist just to get the fund and to get the profit of the fund. Just because government has announced a scheme, announced a program in order to materialize it, they have been constructed. So this might be also initiated or might be, you say, run by politician, run by expel member, expel staff of NGOs, might be also run by, you see, this unemployed youth. because they also may be misled by politicians and explain stuff of the NGOs. Might be businessmen, traders, okay, um, or ex-officials might also run this kind of pseudo uh, NGOs. So it will be the part of pseudo volunteerism, and for which NGOs got a bad name, not because of bad NGOs, but you see because of insensitivity and inaction of good NGOs, and the inaction of those NGOs who don't even think to network together and also stand against the bad activities of NGOs. Okay. And we also discuss about the present status of NGOs. It is very, very important in India and in Assam. And one more component I have raised out, that is amateur volunteerism. When you say amateur volunteerism are not trained professionally. Okay, so they are not trained at all, and they think that it's very easy to run an organization. It's very easy to run an organization, and they do not have any kind of idea, but it is easy to xerox an idea, it is easy to copy an idea. So those are the NGOs who usually copy the idea and xerox an idea from someone else, and they then survive. Okay, they do not have something original. It's an original idea. They do not have something original idea, and most of the time, these NGOs you will get to see they constitute 10 to 15%, and they are donor driven. They are not mission driven. So, in professional and development NGO, you will get to see the importance of mission, importance of vision, importance of objective. But here in amateur or Xerox copy NGOs, you won't get to see any kind of mission. Okay, so that is a problem, that they are donor driven. So they will also sacrifice their goals and objective in order to get the fund at times. But it's not like that they are not driven by any ideologies or principle. They might also driven by the read about that ideology, about the principle. They have also seen that easy to run an NGO. But perhaps this is not their aim to accumulate money. So accumulate money, amassing money is not their aim. But their aim is to serve the society, and they have also seen that it is easier to run this organization. But they do not have an original idea, and they do not have a mission. They are donor driven, they are constituency driven. Okay, so they constitute around 10 to 50% of NGOs. Okay, so what we have discussed today about the very component of locality development approach and how an NGO representative will intervene as a part of locality development approach in a village, and helping mobilizing the villagers in organizing the CBOs, community-based organization, especially SHGs. We have more to discuss about SHGs, but at least you can write one question on SHG. So I have discussed something related to it, and I have discussed about this framework of volunteerism, so which is applicable to existing NGOs. Okay, so it is fine. Okay, thank you.